Ballmer.
Here.
Lower. Munson.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Smock.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
Yates.
Here. All right. Do we have any public comments? It's not on the agenda. Do we have anybody with public comments? No. Jim, public. All right. Any board comments? Item 2 is approval of consent agenda. Minutes, treasury report, financial report. Anybody have any questions about anything in the? Alright, if there are no questions or nothing that needs to be removed, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, Munson moves, Ballmer second. Roll call, please.
Munson.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Smock.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Ballmer.
Yes. Committee reports. Got a finance committee report that Julie, you emailed to us, didn't you? Is there any questions or any additions or anything to the finance committee?
It's in the drive.
Oh, it's on the drive.
Does everybody know how to access their Word packet in the drive?
I'm great at it, but yeah.
Okay.
One thing, if you're using a machine that you also log into Google with like your Google email address, you have to log out and log in with your school email address. I was trying to figure out why I didn't have permission the other day, so. All right. Moving on to item 4, action items. We have the IESA membership renewal. It's a yearly thing. It's $275 for membership dues for that. Allows our teams to participate in all postseason IESA event or state tournaments and things like that. Do I have any questions about the IESA renewal? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve. A roll call vote since it's got dollars tied to it.
Nelson.
Yes.
Smock.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Ballmer.
Yes.
Munson.
Yes.
Motion carried. 6-0. Next, 4.2 is approve the shift to full-day preschool from half-day. So I'll let Scott give the background
Well,
on that.
you guys have the recommendation, you know, in your packet, and we discussed this a little bit last month, but I actually want to let Mrs. McPeak talk about that this month, since
Sure.
she's our supervisor at the Early Learning Center, and try to explain that to you from her perspective.
Yeah. So we currently have 100 seats available with our 4 half-day programs and 1 full day. The last 2 years, last year, I think our max we got to is 85. little bit under what we are currently serving. We are just finding a need for more students that qualify that we're having to turn away for the full day program. This year alone, automatic qualifier is foster. We had, to start the year, we had 3 kids in foster care. And once a student's enrolled in our full day, they remain there until kindergarten. So this year, just to start the year, Asha, which is our full day teacher, she was already at half of her capacity. So as the year went on, I mean, we filled them, but we had to turn kids away that did qualify for a full day program. Another automatic qualifier is family income at or below 50% of poverty level, or they're receiving TNF. Most of our kids are low income that are in our program now. We're also seeing students that are needing that full day to prepare for kindergarten. We have a couple that were just half-day friends this year that were concerned about moving into kindergarten that have some needs that we weren't able to service full day and receive those full day services. So right now the Y has 3 half-days. They don't have any full day programs, so they're not able to serve full day. The other half is a daycare. And there were a couple students that I think could have benefited from our program from there too. And then in regards to like Head Start, they are from 8 to 2, they are full day, but a lot of parents are wanting our program due to the busing that we provide, so they're generally looking at us for those full day spots. I don't know if there's any other information you wanted from me in regards to why I think that's.
One thing I would like to add to that, because of the number of young students, 3 and 4-year-olds that may be automatic qualifiers that also have a need for more extensive special education services, you know, and we're not talking about just speech, but like OT and PT, that in a half-day program, by the time we provide those kinds of services, they're not actually in the classroom for very much time at all.
Yeah.
And so being enrolled in a full-day program allows for a lot of that classroom socialization, play-based learning experience, as well as the special education components that are required by their own needs.
And right now with our full day program, we still have to abide by the 30-70% rule. So Asha's program can only have 30% of the students with IEP. So sometimes we have to turn away those students that Mr. Petrie's talking about that have, you know, those more extensive needs. And plus, you don't want to burn out a teacher having all those students with high needs in one classroom either.
Will there be any impact on staffing levels one way or the other with this change?
No, we currently have 3 teachers, so we're just going to shift one of the teachers that was a half day to the full day, and we have 2 pairs already for that classroom.
Bring
Yeah.
anybody else on, I
Right.
don't think. Make the
Yeah,
change.
Yeah.
one teacher taught at AM and PM, and next year she'll just teach the same
All the
kids
same
all
day.
day long.
Any questions? Entertain motion to approve shift to full day preschool from half day.
I'll move.
Munson, motions. Yates, seconds. Any discussion? All right. Roll call on that. Voice vote. Or, I'm sorry, roll call. Roll call. That's what I meant. If there's too much decision about.
When in doubt.
Yeah, when in doubt, roll call.
Okay. Smock.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Yates.
Yes.
Ballmer.
Yes.
Munson.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. Approve the Park District School Board partnership, or scoreboard partnership.
All right, yeah, last month you heard Tanner Dunn, the president of the Park District, speak to us about a potential trade for some Park District land that currently adjoins the high school in exchange for some financial support towards a new Mercer County School Board at the new baseball diamond going up out at Northside. And he provided a quote on that at a cost of $16,700 $80. And that property swap would include a piece that we've actually been squatting on for quite a while, and in fact paved over, and as well as the tennis court area, which would provide about 20 additional parking spaces at the high school. And my recommendation was to accept that. The scoreboard would be the property of the Park District, but used primarily by the Mercer County High School baseball teams. And I think that's a good move at this point, particularly with the potential for a lot of construction going on at the high school beginning as early as next spring.
Have any questions or concerns? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the Aledo Park District Scoreboard Partnership not to exceed $16,780. Is that right?
And if you remember, Tanner talked a little bit about timelines with that. You know, as another governmental body, the property transfer could take up to 60 to 90 days. In similar ways, when we transferred a ball diamond in Boston to the city of New Boston down there, or worked through a property buy here on this block for the house that used to sit on the corner of. So the motion is to move forward with that process at a cost not to exceed what you see.
All right, Ballmer. Is there a second? Yates. Any discussion? Roll call.
Wagner,
Yes.
Yates,
Yes.
Ballmer,
Yes.
Lower, Munson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Smock.
Yes. Motion carries 6-0. Under information discussion items, we're gonna skip to 5.5 so that Mr. King can go ahead and do his presentation and hit the road and head back home.
Very good.
Do you see Coach Walter?
I have not seen Coach Walter.
Now,
Tell him, hey.
Tell him you don't like Jim Taylor. Oh, sorry, Jim.
Tim, would you go ahead and introduce yourself, because I think we've got at least one board member and maybe a couple of administrators in the audience that may not have met you before.
Very good. Thank you. I'm Tim King. I'm president of King's Financial Consulting. We're a municipal advisory firm as opposed to an underwriting firm that everybody else that doesn't work with us in downstate Illinois works with directly with underwriting firms. What we do is we help you, assist you through the whole process of finding buyers for your bonds whenever you so choose to do bond issues and financing your capital projects primarily. If you were broke, we help finance operating funds as well, but the school districts haven't been having to do that for quite a while now. It's been a number of years. The schools are pretty healthy. So anyway, I'm out of Monticello, Illinois. I work with my son Kendall, the two of us. So we work with roughly 175 of the school districts in the state of Illinois, which if you carve off suburbia, where there's a ton of competition and we just don't do anything in Cook or the Collar counties, and it's kind of almost the same for the Metro East. We only have a couple of districts in the Metro East area. If you take all the school districts out, what's left, we're roughly 50% of the school districts left outside of those two areas. So we've been very, very pleased to have you guys as clients now since I think 2007-ish, 2007, 2008. Obviously, we feel like it's been a great partnership, and I appreciate working with you guys to serve your bonding needs. Our claim to fame is first buy your own, which you did some this last time, which we're the only firm that does that kind of thing or ever recommends that for the last 7 or 8 years now, since 2014 when that process started. And other than that, we just make sure we drive everything to the lowest interest rate possible, and that it's not something that underwriting firms do because their primary customers are the bond buyers. So they're trying to get the highest interest rates they can get away with to their buyers versus we're here working solely for you to get the lowest interest rates. Sound good? Enough of the commercial. I appreciate the opportunity. Anyway, I have done just single pages. I've dropped this in front of all of you just to briefly go through your outstanding situation. I understand that obviously, just a couple of years ago, we did a lot of bonding work that you've been spending money on, and time to finally tackle the high school project. And I know I've been running lots and lots of different scenarios for Scott here over the last 6 to 9 months, frankly, last 2 years, frankly, on and off. But hopefully we're getting closer, or you guys are getting closer to figuring out exactly what it is you want to do. The first page that I want to just look at briefly is your assessed valuation and rate history. For the last 10 years, you can see that you've had nice growth, including a really banner year last year, 11.2%, and right now Scott was budgeting roughly 7.4 for this year, which has allowed you to increase your annual payment for bonds considerably as well, which obviously has been critical to getting stuff done, because everything costs so much anymore compared to what construction costs were, even 5 years ago, kind of thing, that you're just having to be able to absorb lots of bigger payments, and you've been able to do that with a very minimal increase in the bond rate and a hardly noticeable increase in your total rate. Part of that is as you're levying all of your max fund rates, your ed fund, O&M, all of those funds, you're making sure you get your max rates every year out of all that. The rates that are not capped, your tort, IMRF, Social Security, and then bonds. If we need more in bonds, I'm sure you've been able to mitigate some through the tort, IMRF, and Social Security rates down, keeping them steady or maybe even decreasing over time, which will allow you to keep that total rate right in that same 470 to 480 range kind of thing. So this has worked out really well for you. In addition, you've also got sales tax now that you're able to build up funds for the last 6, 7 years, something like that, since you've been sales tax. So much better financial condition, and you've been working really, really well in being able to get a lot of funds to pay for the projects that you get paid for. Second page, then your debt limitations. This one I went ahead and plugged in the 225 EAV estimate, so it's a little bit higher than what it is today. We won't know until you actually get your EAV how close that 225 million is. But right now you should be right around, if you're over 13 million, probably be over 14 million when the new assessed valuations come out for total debt limitations. You're getting, last year you got over $500,000 of sales tax. And then the bottom section, in the orange there, is working cash bonds. They have their own separate limitation that can be added onto the one above. So that one is currently at 5.7 million. That in theory could be added to the 14 million of statutory debt limit at the top. That said, there's always exceptions to debt limit, and that's actually what we'll talk about. It's primarily you're looking at every bit of that 14 million, possibly more. And so we'll go through the process of how do you exceed that limit in the state of Illinois. There's several ways, but there's one that we would look at primarily. Any questions about debt limit? Please keep asking questions as we go along, because obviously it's new for some of you. So. Next page, I apologize for kind of fine print. I didn't turn it to landscape size, but this is your outstanding debt that we put in place in 2022. The green one section, the Series A's, those are the ones that you guys currently own. And then the orange and blue are the ones that were sold outside. And one of the bigger things we try and do, direct placements if at all possible. Yours is actually one of the bigger ones that we've ever done. Once you get over $10 million, it's kind of hard to place bonds locally with banks, but we were able to get several banks involved that took down all of your bonds back in 2022. And so the reason for 2 issues is because Morton Community Bank wanted a 5-year call feature protection, and none of the rest of them, all the rest were fine with immediate calling. So you see the blue ones there have callable 12/1/26. That's the ones that are owned by Morton Community. The orange ones are the ones that are owned by, I believe, 2 or 3 different banks that ended up purchasing all of those. But in total, your levy in the purple column, the total levy over there, you can see we established essentially a 3% increase in payment per year. And when you do an increase in payment, ideally you're hoping that the assessed valuation goes up at least 3% so that your rate remains constant. In reality, and then if you also, for those of you who remember, back then we had planned for roughly $250,000 worth of sales tax to be used towards the payment for the bond levy every year. Because your growth has been greater than that, greater than 3%, you've been able to reduce and now basically eliminate the amount of that sales tax contribution. So you're not, the now to keep your sales tax and all of the whole levy thing or whatever. Not gonna be any of that, you're not gonna levy the whole thing. And so that will continue to then grow at 3%, which we think expect your EAB growth to be greater than 3%, which is the big reason that will allow us to do more money now with little to no increase in bond payment from here, because we know that we can project anywhere 5, 7, 9%, whatever you're comfortable with, for future EAB increases and probably keep your rate pretty constant. Next page I just put together just what types of bonds we're looking at and what a sample timeline might look like if you got going quickly. Basically, to get around those debt limitations like we talked about, you have to do first a type of bond that is not subject to debt limitations. That's an altered revenue bond. Altered revenue bonds typically are, if they're intended to remain outstanding forever, that's the type of bond you use if you're going to pay back with sales tax, for example, over time, or some other revenue stream. But then they also can be used to create a claim for doing a funding bond. A funding bond is a type of bond that is used to pay claims. I think when the legislature created these things 40 years ago, probably the idea was that if school districts were broke, they would have bills, they don't know how to pay these bills, they got claims against them, and uh-oh, what are we going to do? We need to get a way to finance these things, so they allowed the creation of a funding bond to get a separate bond and interest levy to pay back funding bonds and get those claims, backlog of bills paid off. Well, everybody in our business and in bond counsel business quickly figured out, hey, this could be a creative way to get around debt limitations, because funding bonds can exceed that limit, kind of thing when they were introduced. So for the last 40 years, these also get used, in this case, to pay claims that could be creative claims. So an alternate revenue bond, if you do any kind of debt, the minute that debt's issued, then bond counsel, the attorneys say, okay, but now you have this claim, and you can go ahead and now issue a funding bond that does get a debt levy, bond levy for repayment to pay off the alternate revenue bond that does not. So essentially, we have to go through the process of issuing X dollars of alternate revenue bonds to one of your local banks that they know is probably only going to be out there 60 to 90 days before we get through the steps we need to get through to do funding bonds and pay those off and replace them. So doing 2 bond issues in a very short period of time that ends up getting you the total amount of dollars you need to do your capital projects and gets you a established separate bond levy for repayment over time, just like the bonds that you currently have.
Do you think that those were funding mechanisms put in place to eliminate things like tax anticipation warrants and teachers' orders?
They're in combination with, but this is a permanent solution where the tax anticipation warrants are not. Because tax anticipation warrants back in the day, if you were broke and you just need to get through the summer before your taxes start coming in, then you'd go do warrants, but the warrants are stipulated, they have to be repaid immediately when the tax revenues do start coming in. They're just borrowing against next year's revenue. Where
This was a better solution.
Districts that were getting behind, because I used to work with a couple of districts that they were doing tax anticipation warrants for all of next year's revenue and getting into the year after that. We're in such dire straits back in the early 2000s. And so this is a more permanent solution because this creates a new revenue stream, a new bond levy to repay these where warrants do not. So yeah, same concept. I'm sure that was put in place, the same concept. This is the permanent solution. They were, back in the early 2000s, right after 9/11, when the state went into tank there for a while, there were a number of districts we worked with that were just short every year, and they would do funding bonds every 2 to 3 years. So essentially, you're just paying forward some expenses and continuing to add to that bond levy over time and bumping rates a little bit, because back then EABs weren't growing. So yeah, that was a mechanism that was getting used by some districts that were in dire straits, and we haven't seen that for a long time now. The state has gotten pretty good there before 2008 with another dip, and bad for a while, but my gosh, the new state aid formula that has shifted a lot of funds away from suburbia down to rural districts. Most rural districts we work with are doing just fine, which is a good thing, obviously. Anyway, so that's the 2-step process we would go through, and So if we were to do that and try and crunch it as tight as possible, if you will, to get it done as quickly as possible, we could start at May at your regular meeting and adopt the first resolution of intent for alternate revenue bonds, hold the required public hearing, and then there's a notice that gets published in the paper, and you have to wait 30 days until that 30-day petition period expires, and then you can issue the bond. So we come back sometimes, just after 30 days later. When I looked at the calendar, there actually was more than 30 days between the May and June regular meetings, so we could come right back to your June regular meeting, adopt the sale to a local bank for 13 million, 19 million, whatever dollar amount you pick that you want to do at this time. And then we would close that about a week later. Money would go into the bank. Then right away we'd hold a special meeting to adopt the resolution of intent to issue the funding bonds. They also are subject to that same 30-day petition period, so we publish that notice, hold the required public hearing for that, and then 30 days would be roughly late July, early August before we could get to adopt the sale resolution for those, closing on those, which would pay off the alternate revenue bonds. So there'd be a couple special meetings worked in there to get it done in a short period of time, or it could be spread out a longer period of time if you do it all regular meetings. And it doesn't have to start in May, so it's just totally a matter of your timeline.
That's
How fast
awesome.
you need funds.
We would need the funds till next year.
Well, part of the thought process is that we are in this very unique situation right now where you can make arbitrage profits. You're borrowing money in the low to mid 4s right now, and you can put it out at Illinois funds at 5.4.
Well, that's what you're going to talk about right now.
Well, I'm actually gonna let him talk about it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Because he knows a lot more about it than I do.
Assuming, yeah, I mean, this is unprecedented. It hasn't been since 2005. Was the last time where passive savings rates were higher than tax-exempt borrowing rates. That's where we're at today, primarily because the short-term treasuries have been bumped so hard and so fast. And that's what Illinois funds, that's what the PMA Liquid Asset Fund, they're investing in short-term treasuries. And Illinois funds was set up by the state of Illinois just as a separate fund that all municipal governments in the state can use. But taking their investment clout, they have their professional money managers that are investing, and they're only investing in short-term treasuries, those types of investments that are allowable under the Illinois Public Funds Investment Act, so they're legal for you guys to use. They know that this fund is specific to meet the Illinois Investment Act, so it's not putting you guys out of bounds with your investments and your investment policy. And anyway, both of those funds just rallied like crazy. I was telling Scott like a year and a half ago, somebody got off of our Sangamon Township board in Hyatt County, and I got asked by one of the other guys over there if I wanted to serve. The first thing I did was walk in and say, "Wow, you're getting 2% on your $1.5 million for our little township sitting there doing nothing. You know, you could be getting 5 3/4 right now." And it took about 6 months worth of cajoling, and I said, "Really? Nobody believed me." I said, "Yeah, you can. It's totally liquid. That's the cool thing about Illinois funds. They have enough volume. Normally, if you're trying to buy bonds or treasuries, you might be locked up for 30 days, 60 days, a year, whatever, in a CD kind of thing. But they have so many, like $4 billion in there, that they're always constantly buying and selling. So there's plenty of liquidity that they can offer to you. So you can put money in today, and you can get it right back out tomorrow. And it's all just online, just like you guys probably do with your local bank account, where you just move the money. It's just as simple as a couple of clicks once you get the account established. And you can move the money from your local bank up there, earning, and bring it back down whenever you need to pay the bills. So, and that's, again, treasury, so it's moved a whole lot faster than your local banks. They've just been in a pickle for the last year and a half now, as interest rates moved up far faster than they can adjust, right? Because they got long-term loans, long-term investments. Their cost of funds is, boom, all of a sudden going up. So every bank just has to be slow to adjust so that they don't get too topside. And they've all been trying to get out of all of their other loans and reprice stuff at higher interest rates so they can actually make a spread and stay in business. So it's been a real challenging environment. We haven't hardly been doing direct placements this last year. It's been mostly public offerings. It's a totally different year than the last 15 because most banks are sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, we don't have that surplus investments. We're just staying liquid right now." And it's really just small, couple $1 million local issues where there's one local bank and the school district has all their funds there. Well, yeah, we can twist it on and get those done at decent rates, but otherwise, something like this, you know, 13 to 19 million, this will be a public offering in this environment for 20 years. There's no way in the world we're going to be able to do what we did last time with the consortium of banks at the kind of rates we had last time, obviously, but even at any rate right now, you're just not going to get things stepping up and playing more.
Yeah, the process you're talking about here is exactly the same process that we went through with the last issue. Is that correct? In terms of.
We did, I think we did debt.
We did
because
debt
we were within your debt
limits.
limits.
Yeah.
So we could, because a debt certificate is another bond that creates a claim, but doesn't require the 30-day petition period or the public hearing. It's better that way. It's just quick and easy. So yes, we did some debt certificates locally, took them out with funding bonds, where if we're over that 13, it depends on what dollar figure you pick, but we may be above your debt limit, in which case we'd have to do the alternate funding bonds to get the full amount that you want to get to create that claim. But yes, that's exactly what we did last time. We also did we combined that with some working cash bonds, because your debt limit back then, I mean, your EAD's grown crazy, right? Your debt limit back then, if I remember, I around 8 million. So I think we did like 8 million of funding bonds, and then 5 million of working cash bonds to get the 13 million we wanted to get. Where this time, my thought process was just do it all in one funding bonds. Whatever that amount you need. Anyway, that's the only reason to move quicker.
Okay.
Because you are allowed, right now, you could make maybe a 1%, 3/4 to 1% spread for a while on those invested funds. And normally that's illegal, normally not illegal, but normally if you make a spread, there's a form you have to fill out for the IRS and send in the difference. But in a construction period, as long as you meet certain spend down requirements, which is usually like 5% in 6 months, and then after that you have up to 3 years for any issues 15 million and under. If they're 15 million and over, it's a little bit faster, you got to spend it in 2 years. And there's certain deadlines that you're supposed to spend down your construction funds. And as long as you meet those drawdown requirements, you can make arbitrage profits. You can make a higher rate of interest than what you're paying. If you're not going to meet those spend down requirements, then you could just go to your local bank and say, hey, here's my borrowing rate, will you give me that? And so you don't make arbitrage profits, but you're still at least making what you're paying, so you're not losing anything during the construction period. So different thought process right now. Normally you'd wait, spread out borrowing over time, you know, kind of thing perhaps, or wait till the last minute to do borrowing, but right now it's actually just flipped. It makes sense to do it as quick as you can do borrowing and actually make some money. But you still need to know the dollar amount, so it's not like you can move until you decide what the project's going to be. So earlier today, when I was getting ready for the meeting and cranking this out, probably me didn't listen to emails as well, but I thought what you wanted was the phase 1 and 2 together of 19 million, and assumed you were going to take 6 million donation at 500,000 a year for 12 years. So that's what I prepared for. If you need to go back and run a 13 million phase 1 only without the donation at this point, piece of cake, I can get that done by tonight when I get home or something and get it back to you, but we could certainly get a second one out there. And it probably, the net levy amount, my guess is, wouldn't look much different, because essentially you're just not taking the donation. We just refund some of your existing bonds to fit it in and still. So the thought process here was something closer to a 9% increase in the payment every year. And then every year, if your EAD doesn't keep up with 9%, obviously what's been happening is you've been adjusting some of your other funds to offset that rate, so that your total rate remains pretty consistent. So every year you can continue to do that kind of a program. Or you also have sales tax that if you need to supplement, abate a little bit of it and supplement it. This just allows you to get a big enough payment out there that you can keep maxing that bond levy and get this thing paid off in 20 years. Because with the debt you have outstanding plus this new debt, you don't have a lot of space without taking a tax rate increase. And this is probably the last issue we'll be able to do at this point for a long, long time that we can say that. If you come back to phase 3 in 5 or 6 or 7 years, at that point you probably need to bump rates a little bit to get it fit in. But if you get 10 years down the road, then probably 8 to 10 years, something like that, so we can tax we could go out as 20 years, so you'd have another 8, 10 years cleared out again that we could go and fill up. So that's kind of our thought process now, is to try and get at least phase 1 and perhaps phase 1, phase 2 done with little to no change in overall tax rates. And figure out the rest later. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I am gonna ask Tim to run a couple other schedules for us. One at 13, without any offset, and also one at 13 and one at 19, if we utilize some sales tax dollars, like we pledged before, up to 250,000, per year, to see where that anticipated increase comes in at. Because I think that's, we had previously on the prior issue anticipated using up to 250,000. In the first year, we only had to use 160, and in the second year, we didn't have to use any.
I think you had a tip come in pretty quick there within those
Yeah.
first 2 years, so
Yeah.
you got a nice boost that you gave you one of those years and was able to cover up a lot of your payment there.
Yeah, and I think that caught up, a number of those years, and we should be good going forward with that.
I guess I should back up, I didn't think until now, but I said you couldn't do another one and fit it in the tax rate, that's true, but you do still have all your sales tax, whether it's used for part of an issue here, or whether you do an alternate revenue bond based on sales tax, that you intend to use sales tax to pay off over time, that could get you the extra 5 or 6 or 7 million for a phase 3 possibly down the road too. If you're not using any sales tax towards the first phase 1 and phase 2, so that would be another good option.
And we have
Use that
used
money as well.
virtually no sales tax in the time of the district towards any other projects other than the offsets and bond payments. We have not used it directly for construction purposes or capital outlay purposes.
So then all the summer projects we do, roofs, all that stuff, that's just been coming out of the O&M fund?
That's either coming out of O&M or health life safety.
Okay. So that's always been my concern, is that, if we do issue 19 million, are we still able to keep up with the normal maintenance of our buildings? Not letting-
Well, if we were on a real good schedule, yes, and we're on a real good schedule, I think, with roofs, but with some other issues, we've got some window issues that we still need to do some catch up on.
Right.
And those are potential health, life, safety, or alternately O&M projects.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
No, someone goes back to class.
Lot to digest. Big decisions, a lot of money.
Yeah.
I appreciate that it's a challenge. Usually when I show up, these are some of the biggest financial decisions that anybody's making, that probably, it's kind of crazy you guys made a 13 already just a couple of years ago, talking about another 13 and 19. It's a lot of money, it's so expensive to get done. I appreciate the challenge.
By a lot, James.
There you go.
So, does everybody understand that Illinois fund? Okay. All right.
Because what my intent with that was to give you guys some information about that. If you want to do some research on your own, certainly an easy enough website to find. I shared with the finance committee meeting, I'll just pass around, I didn't bring copy. Those are the April benchmarks through our finance committee meeting in terms of interest rates, and they're all over 5.4.
They change every day based on their average, what they're paying out, but it's been, the 5.4 was about as low as it's got to. So we rallied up to like 5.75 6 months ago.
But my intent would be next month to bring an action item to open an Illinois funds account.
Okay.
Whether we end up with a new bond issue or not,
Right. You take some of our own.
we could actually transfer some of our money that we currently have in other depositories to there. We're earning just under 4.1% on our funds right now. So that would be an increase for us, regardless of how we move funds in there.
at some point in time, you probably want to, if it looks like rates actually are gonna top and start working their way down, then maybe that's the time to get into some sort of laddering CD scheme where you are locking in some of these rates for a year at a time perhaps, or 2 years on some and then a year on others or whatever, and have, so that some keep coming matured and others reinvesting, so that you can actually lock in these high rates for a longer period of time at some point, because these are daily change, right? The treasuries would actually start to come down, the Illinois funds will come down just as quick as it went up. So just keep that in mind, but for right now, it certainly looks like, at least a year, I think the treasury rates won't be as much after that.
All right. If there's no other questions, yes. We're gonna hit you up with some emails.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time, Brett. Careful.
We'll try.
Don't forget, give Coach the message. Feel like Jim.
We'll go back to 5.1 FOIA requests. We did have a FOIA in there, didn't we?
That's our quarterly vendor request.
There it is.
Questions about that? It's pretty straightforward. 5.2 community forum. We had a light attendance this year, so next year I think we'll probably go back to the strategic invites. We had about 10 or 12 people. But we did get good feedback. The survey is open online, so anyone feels free to go out online and fill out the survey. It's the same questions that were asked at the community forum. So next month we'll bring some of that feedback back to the
Yeah, right now, and I think we'll make another media push to try to get that out there. We've gotten about 60 responses to that online survey. And we typically ended up with somewhere between 200 and 300 responses to that. So we'll try to get that message out there again and see if we can't get some more feedback.
And I know the reason for the date that we pick is it's usually a hole in our school schedule. No, not as many activities as a normal night, always on that Tuesday. But it's also the mandatory annual meeting of Hickory Township is that exact same night every year. And I know that 3 people had said they couldn't come because of that. But it always worked. Our school schedule just doesn't necessarily work with the rest of the county. Butler Township mandatory annual meeting is that night.
Yeah, so we can relook at, I guess, when we have that.
Yeah, 'cause we've been using that corresponding date for a number of years, and it's a corresponding conflict as well.
Yeah. So again, I mean, we can talk about that. We can look at moving it to, summer's not always good, but there wouldn't be many conflicts with school programs anyway, but there'd be other conflicts. So any ideas I'd be open to, so if anyone has any ideas to run by, please shoot me an email or a text or something and we can go forward. 5.3 superintendent search. We had Patricia from the IASB come and in your packet is the announcement of vacancy. I reached out to her today to just see how things were going along and she didn't get back to me. But I know that she had told me the night that she was here that we had multiple candidates that were just waiting to see that announcement of vacancy to see what our goals were, the things that were important to our districts, to see how that would line up for them, and then they would go online and apply. So what we need to do tonight, and I'm trying to find my notes, maybe, I don't know if Jason, do you still have them? We need to set some dates for the first and second interviews. I know I wrote those down, but I am not finding them in my
May
Final.
6th is your application deadline.
Yeah, I think she was thinking of coming in May to present us the candidates, was that right, for our May board meeting? And then she was wanting us to set dates shortly thereafter, so our,
Still in,
what's that?
the interviews are still, like, all that was gonna happen.
Yeah, so our board meeting's on the 15th. I am out of town from the 24th, no, 23rd to the 31st, so it's not very conducive for, but we could possibly do the, first round interviews. It'll depend on how many candidates we have. You might have to do 2 nights, or we could do 1 night and really cram it in, and we could look at doing, a weekend as well, like Saturday. I'm fairly open May 20th and 21st if we wanted to do a 2 days back to back to get the first round in, and then second round, we could do that following week. 27th is Memorial Day, so that's not a good day. We could look at doing the 28th or 29th. Anybody have any that week? Okay. Well, I'm gone that whole week, so that's not a good
It
week
was
for me.
really hard, especially 2 nights, I don't think I could do that.
So we could look at June 3rd. Cause that would give us time, wanna tentatively schedule, and I can check with Patricia, but tentatively schedule the 20th and the 21st for first round, and June 3rd for second round. Anything we're missing from a administration standpoint that might conflict? Okay. So we'll put those down. So, May 20th and 21st, first round. And then June 3rd, second round.
Yeah, and while we're talking about dates related to that here, we're gonna have to move our June board meeting.
Okay,
It's scheduled for June 19th.
yep,
Clarification from the state board, after that calendar was set last spring with that new law in effect, there are no school activities allowed on June 19th, and it is not a waivable holiday.
okay,
So we're gonna have to move it off that Wednesday, so
okay.
does the 20th work? That might be our best date,
Thursday the 20th.
yeah.
That works for me.
June is always bad for me, so just
I usually show
go ahead,
this on
switch
for
the
that. Usually do what I show this on for.
All right, well then we'll move the June meeting to Thursday the 20th.
I cannot answer this,
It's in my calendar.
Google form from Shelley Snyder.
You have to log into your,
Google Docs.
your Google,
I don't have that.
your school email.
Oh, it's on there.
superintendent search or anything in regards to that? If not, we'll move on to press policies. They're in your packet.
And this is just a first notice of those updates from the School Board Association, and we'll be scheduling a policy committee meeting to review those and bring any updates or new ones to the board for approval next month.
It's a really long one.
It's the quarterly update.
There will be a webinar on the ISB website at some future. I'm not sure when that is exactly, but if you would like a summary from a lawyer on all of them, feel free to go watch that.
Will they speak in layman's terms?
Yes,
All
I
right.
listened to the last one and I could understand what they're talking about.
That's what, I like the little synopsis where it takes the big, huge thing and it breaks it down in like 5 sentences.
Cliff notes, that's
Yeah.
what we call it.
I like those. My attention span is not great. All right, so we'll vote on policy next month, or is it just-
That would be the intent.
Okay.
Hey Scott, where's the attached definitions page for the state economic statement?
I don't know.
Says right here, see attached definition
Oh
page.
yeah, because
How many
you're the
attached-
outlier.
I don't know how many attached
I
definitions.
think it's on the website.
Yeah.
I'll look here at closed session and I'll find it.
I'm just thinking to make up something out this, I handed it to an attorney one time, he couldn't tell me how to fill it out. So-
See, when you don't have any money and don't own your own business, you get the answer in $8 all the time.
Sure down Tracy Yates. Yeah.
And we could probably,
Mine, they're usually yellow,
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
but mine, yeah, every year I fill them out 20 times and they're, let me see, has yours got anything like that?
You need to make a copy of it so
I
you
did.
remember what you did.
That's why I know it's different than last year. It didn't have that thing that said see attached.
Oh,
Didn't have that last
Because
year.
remember they changed it like a
yeah,
couple years ago.
last year was an updated one.
And they
Don't have
changed
that.
it. We had to like go out and take a big, well, not, but we had to read it.
Maybe I never filled, maybe I didn't fill the right one out. Maybe this is the wrong one I filled out. And you guys maybe fill out different. But I got the one I took a picture of last year on purpose.
Let you know to fill out.
All right, it's different now.
So we've already done 5.5 and 5.6 with Tim. So we're at 5.7, district publication. Is that the last 3
You don't have
pages
to,
of
you don't
that?
have the attached
The
definition page.
online
Yeah.
account access?
Um,
Oh, no, that's Illinois
Illinois
funds. Did you send us anything for that?
I don't think I did. I
Okay.
brought all those samples back
Okay.
and pass those around. You guys can take one and pass them on down. There's like 5 over there, and they're all very similar. A couple of them from the same district, a couple more from different ones. But this is one of the things that we brought back from the school board convention last fall, and she wanted to revisit that. So, I don't know if you want to say some things about that, or I can share a little feedback I've gotten on those from some different groups that I've shared them with.
Yeah, the session that I went to in Chicago, 5 superintendents, each district utilizing this company to create these publications. Some of them were once per semester, and another one was quarterly. But their feedback was that, if your community has a negative perception about what's going on in your school district, this is a way to tell your story to not only the parents, but to every voting member of your community, and especially to people who, like my parents are not on social media or whatever, and they don't really see what's going on unless I tell them. And get a lot of people who are in district who vote but don't really know anything about what's going on in the district anymore because of lack of a local coverage in the local paper, or very few people do newsletters anymore, and they want to see what's going on. They want to know. So then when they're voting for different district issues, then they're a little more informed of what's happening. And I forgot, but maybe you remember the superintendent's name that we talked about.
Joe Schoenberg.
Yeah, was originally from Rova. His district where he is now currently uses it. And one superintendent superintendent that went south, he's in the southern part of the state, said came into his district and everything was negative about the school. Everything, you know, public perception of the school district was nothing but bad. Trying to turn that perception around to utilize this tool, and then people were waiting for the thing to come in their mail. They knew it was coming in his district every semester, and when it didn't come, then the unit office was getting calls, hey, where's my district newsletter? And the good thing about a company like this is you don't hire anyone necessarily like a person, like I know Sherrard hires a person, but this, you would hire this company about the same rate as you would hire an individual. They do all of the interviewing. You just say, here's a topic, go, and they act like reporters, and they will go into interviews as needed, photography. They write the articles, and then put it together and mail it to every address in the district. They do all of the legwork. You just give them places to start, and then we don't have to worry about it in-house, and it's all done professionally. You don't have to worry about who are you going to hire, because they are all highly credible people that have come together to do this for schools. And I don't know what that's why I was wondering if we had any, bids or anything like that on it. The high end was $80,000 a year, and that's what we would pay a person if you hired in your district to do it. And that was the high end, I believe, of the scale that we were told that day. But, our number one thing, like Mr. Petrie mentioned, the community forum, or what's our number one problem we have in our district goals every year is reaching out to the community. And this session was standing room only, 3 sessions in a row. There was no place to sit. There was just people around it, and because every district is having this problem. And everybody's trying to find a solution. How do we reach out to the people who don't have kids in the schools? And but it also helps, like, I have had kids go through 4 of the 5 buildings we've had in our district. I haven't had kids go through Apollo. This would help. I would learn things about Apollo that I don't normally see unless I'm going on the Facebook page specifically to find them. So I think, it would work the same in reverse. So and I had no idea what was going on at the junior high until my kids reached that age. And so I think this would be good for everyone in the district. I would just like to see what it would cost our district, and to move forward one way or the other, get a vote on it. Do we want to do this or do we not? If we're willing to spend 16, 20 million on buildings, I don't see 80,000 as a problem to solve one of our biggest district goals that we've had and never found a solution to.
Well, we don't have a newspaper anymore, really.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, 20 years ago, people there was a lot that Time Tracker did do articles. WRMJ still does a good job, but, there's not a lot of people who catch that all the time. So you gotta catch it at the right time to hear the story. And, luckily the website's good, but this would be another opportunity to touch them.
And I can get quotes for that, but I have, and I mean I think they're great, and so do the groups that I've shared them with. They get a little sticker shock when we talk about potential cost, on the high end at 80, probably on the low end at 40. But if you look at publication and mailing costs alone, there's a lot of color here, and I'm going to mail this to 4,000 residents 4 times a year. What am I spending right there, just in publication and mailing? That doesn't include any creation content cost.
So does that 40 grand cover the post?
Everything.
It covers and I don't know that that's low, because you have to.
Right.
A lot of that cost is based on how many box holders do you have.
Right.
But we know it's about 4,000 based on our facility survey we did about 4 years ago. So that gives us some idea of where a starting point might be. When I spoke at the Exchange Club last week, I shared these with them. They thought that was great, because a lot of those people are not on social media on a regular basis, or they don't have. Only a couple of them had grandkids in the school district anymore. and so they're not well connected to that, and that's why they typically invite me to come speak every year, and they usually invite the AD too. I don't know if you've been hit up yet about that. I'll recommend you.
Remember, I'm not the AD support.
But they do like to hear that, you know, and they are interested in what's going on. But yeah, I think they were a little stunned at what something like that might cost. But regardless of what we do, I think there are avenues with even some of the publications that we do, and I've talked with people that were part of that exchange club, because they were actually meeting at the Mercer County Senior Center, that we could take some print documents there. The YMCA has offered to, you know, have a box of handouts, you know, at their door, because there are a lot of seniors and a lot of community members that come to YMCA. I think Mercer Market would be willing to do that. You know, you walk in the door and there's these baskets of flyers that could be a low to virtually no cost option for us for things we do right now, just with like the Eagle Eye. So I think there are some things that we need to try to be more creative with and get that message out there, regardless of what we end up doing with something like this. But I'd be happy to bring some quotes to the board next month and make a decision about what you want to do with that.
Okay. Anyone have any questions or something you want to make sure? Hopefully, if they say 80,000, because you would think maybe that's just the district with boxes. Maybe get lucky.
Well, and I suppose the number of times you do it per year.
Yeah. Are you doing it twice per year, 4 times a year?
And maybe we don't need to do it 4 times a year.
What was Dragon Times was actually an English club.
Yeah. Well, we used to have that, yeah, the newspaper.
I don't know if I was part of that kind of thing.
Yeah, the
Times
yep.
record.
Students put stuff on it.
You do the senior spotlight, which I don't
Turn
know
on
if
the
they do
class,
anymore.
or not, I can't remember which class.
Mine does.
All right, well, we'll have Scott get some quotes to see what we're looking at. Item 6, administrative reports. Mrs. Cooper's not here. She
Okay.
had a really good add to hers.
Yeah, and we can talk about that after we hear any updates that you guys, or questions you might have for those that are able to attend tonight. Mr. Robertson is dealing with his fine arts night over there, and you heard from Mrs. Cooper earlier, and I want to talk about the email update that she sent you.
Does anybody have anything they want to add? I know New Boston, you have family night tomorrow night, right?
Yes,
What time?
it's 5 to 7,
Okay.
so if you wanna come in maybe a little early, you might actually find a place to park. Yeah, but technically, yeah, 5 to 7, and, we didn't leave the building till about 5:30, just working on decorations.
And Kaylee told me at our tax meeting this afternoon, you've got over 300 RSVPs so far.
We had about, last check was around 330, and that was not including like staff and their kids, so, yeah. I mean, it's gonna rain, it may go out, it may go down, it's an inside, it's an inside event though, so we don't have, a lot outside.
What's the theme this year?
Circus, like family circus night, so, a little carnival. We've got our Scholastics Book Fair, and, I just posted on Facebook, like our little ticket booth, and we have a lanyard, and we're punch cards, we got cotton candy, we have popcorn, we have hot dog vendor coming in for a little hot dog plate with chips in it, I don't know if it's cookie, but definitely a drink. Games with little toy prizes for the kids. Have a little space for, picture updates on the new building. I've got some pictures today. So the community, whoever comes in, kind of see progress from the inside, picture all, you know, just little things. They'll enjoy it. I think they're gonna come in tomorrow and go, oh my gosh, because we're about halfway decorated.
appreciate the pictures for the learning center. Those are always fun.
Yeah, we're always doing fun things, so I thought I'd include them.
Yeah.
I think it was disappointed Murray's kid. Didn't he?
Yeah, he didn't make
That was last
didn't
month.
reappear.
Oh my God.
And you had a field trip today.
Yeah, it was a good field trip to the family museum, but I don't know what Tim would say about the Camden Park lunch. It was pretty windy up there. The kids didn't care, but the adults,
Yeah.
it was windy.
Did you get to supervise today?
I prefer staying.
I asked him if he wanted to swap.
That's your sweet spot.
Little.
Kitty cat.
No, it was super good for the kids. It came out really well.
Or
Did you,
your cats.
did you have anything, Tim, that you or Mr. CJ?
I do think I left off our, spring concert on the 25th.
Okay.
So we have our art gala, everything set up in Commons on that day. That's next weekend, Thursday. I would highlight the IPA breakfast again. Like, our region does that way better than a lot of the other regions. As I talk to principals, they get award and leave, like they have improv comedy show. It's awesome when we go up there. I learned nothing but good things from the parents and keep together.
That was nice. That was good. And it went very smoothly too. Yeah.
Good. No one has anything else to add? Want to address the camp?
Yeah. Well, and one thing I didn't see in Tim, he didn't mention it, but we did have our projection system installed.
Oh, yeah.
Finally,
Yeah.
the one we ordered last summer is now installed and ready to go. Teresa, I see you laughing, but that's what happens in construction projects sometimes. You know, but I think that's gonna be a real nice addition to be used here, not only for our staff, opening, closing day kinds of events that we have, but also for all the kinds of things that they put in there. And maybe we can find some creative way to use that with your, music concert and art game coming up. No, in the email that, Mrs. Cooper sent you, and maybe Mr. Murray will have something to add in his part-time role with AD to this. We've got a real concern that the gym floor is not gonna be ready for our May 19th graduation. Because of some delays with the bleacher movement, related to a plumbing issue, that was behind the bleachers. It's put us back about a week, maybe a little more, depending on when the bleacher company gets back to move the bleachers back. When we replaced that piece of flooring that was underneath them, that their current recommendation is that from the installer of the floor that we not be on that floor before the 24th of May. Is that correct?
I talked with Steve this week, timeline and everything, he thought May 24th was his kind of date. He said he'd be kind of worried about chairs and that, something on that early and curing and possibly putting some marks under the floor, and that was kind of my recommendation, I think, to move
That they prefer as long a cure time for a brand new floor in particular as possible. Just like we let new concrete cure for as long as we can. I think Mrs. Cooper explained possible options to you based on her conversation with Mr. Ruggles in terms of where that might be, and that recommendation for Plan B there would be to host the graduation ceremony at the Central Park Band Shell. I don't know exactly what that would look like, whether that would be students on the stage and band on the concrete pad or vice versa, with seating similar to what we see during summer music concerts and Rhubarb Fest, where spectators would bring their own seating with them. Their lawn chairs, just like they do for other events that are hosted up there.
And I know Mrs. Cooper and I are going to meet with Justin Blazer, Public Works Director with the City of Toledo on Tuesday. I've kind of got that relationship with working part-time during there in the summer about, making a walkway for the graduates to come down the middle, maybe bringing in some bleachers like we have in the past from the YMCA, and kind of making that
we routinely have had requests for some outdoor ceremonies. You know, we've always got some weather concerns. The last one that we hosted on the football field in July was a little warm, but we're looking at shaded park area with a band shell and a great sound system up there, which is one of the pluses. The alternative, if the case were severe weather, then was we have a gymnasium with a similar seating capacity to the high school gym in Joy, if the weather was too severe to host something outside. But making a date change at this point is probably off the table.
That was economic for people throwing beer cans in the yard. Change the date. That just be people.
Hey, I'm totally fine with the band shell, but what's the fear of using the high school field? Just,
The wind, the heat, the sound, the seating.
it's just
yeah.
wide open.
And I'll be honest, we don't have the greatest handicap accessibility to our football field, so I worry about some of those other people walking across the practice field. It's not always the greatest.
All it has to do is rain the day before, you know, it's
And
gonna
we
be a mess.
get a quarter inch
And-
of rain the day before, and that football field's gonna be a
And
slugfest.
truthfully, we probably have better parking at Central, available at Central Park, at least through the month of May, for.
Well, you don't have to tell me we have the worst practice field in America. I've been telling you people that for 12 years.
What do you think about the seating capacity of Central Park, which is probably my home? I can't imagine that it's even close to comparable to what we have.
We can shut down the highway, we did it with Susie Bogus.
When Susie Vargas was in here, we estimated 5,000 people there. And it wasn't terrible.
You know, what's the seating capacity of the gym, 1,200?
Fire marshal, or you want to tell you actually?
Oh,
About 60.
5,000
We had
people in
the
Central
road
Park.
closed.
That's what they anticipated, that's what they estimated for Susie
That was the road
Vargas.
closed, that wasn't.
We did close the road for Susie Vargas.
No, the road's closed 17 stores.
Yeah, but we just could see, say that.
I mean, you have to start doing that right now, it's permanent. I'll get that time for that.
And I think the city could probably give us some estimates on what they've seen for Rhubarb Fest crowds there.
And that's why we wanted to meet with Justin Blazer to kind of talk through that.
And I can tell you, they figure that seating capacity purely on a square footage basis. It's not the number of seats that you can actually squeeze in there. It's based on square footage and exiting capacity. And the exiting capacity is not an issue there, so we could probably get a pretty good estimate on that.
People coming to see it, even a spectator who comes and can sit up elevated in a gym and see what's going on is gonna be 1,000 times better than someone, parent who's stuck in the back and can't see their kid that far up and there's no elevation change. It's gonna be a hot mess for parents.
I think they're gonna appreciate that it's not an actual hot mess.
You can just shade.
Sweat show.
It's called air conditioning, didn't we put it in high school?
yeah, but it's not, we don't have it if it.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but the,
I think, yeah, love to have it.
who's Joy? Joy?
The classrooms on.
You can rent those great big deals to put in the doorway. Just blow in air. I mean.
I think we did that one year, didn't we?
I've seen them in shop, like big shops and stuff that have parties and, I mean, they take up a whole doorway, the duct takes up a whole doorway and there's a big,
Is there a sound issue with those?
Oh, a little bit.
I mean, that's one of the concern, like, in the
the
high school
units
gym,
outside, I mean,
we
yeah.
actually shut even though we're running the air, we shut the exhaust fans off at the high school during graduation.
You just run it the night before and get that baby frigid in there and then shut it off and run the people in there and there you go.
We'll figure.
What's the seating capacity for your legal young
Jordan Picker. Jordan Picker, I think. I think it is.
The
Because you
visitor
got both
side is
sides.
just as high
They're
as the
same
home
depth.
side, so
Yeah,
it's
but it's higher
different than
capacity.
bleachers.
What they say?
Plus the seats. Older people
Because you don't
have
sit on the
seats.
floor, it's like,
a seating capacity is not hard to come up with, it's on the sticker on the wall.
I don't remember off the top of my head what was down there, but.
I know you lose some capacity because of the nice chairs, and that's the best thing about that is the chairs, but.
So what was the alternative for things on the,
Georgia.
oh, but that's when we first picked that stuff. I didn't, I
That
got about
was-
halfway through that.
That was, yeah, that was just their recommendation.
I tried running across the road for something else. That's why I decided to put that down. I think that's still lots of times. Say, oh, there's none of it.
All right, so, so nothing else on administrative reports, we can go to close, I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session. Ballmer, is there a second? Yates second, roll call please.
Yates,
Yes.
Balmer,
Yes.
Lower, Munson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Smock,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
All right, so motion passes, we'll go